Everything starts when I was young. I dated a man that was 5 years older than me. I was 19 years old. He was my first boyfriend. What I learned from the world and my peers was that the way to show my boyfriend that I loved him was to have sex with him. I came up pregnant, and I remember my first ultrasound that I had. I saw the baby's head, I saw the heartbeat, and I saw the baby's arms move. So I saw life, I saw the formation, and I was excited. I accepted it, accepted reality. When I was 4 months pregnant, 5 of my closest friends came over to my home and they begged me. They said, please, you have to get an abortion. Fear entered my heart, and I thought, what am I doing? They're right. I'll just go get an abortion, and after the abortion, it's easy. I'll just tell my boyfriend that I had a miscarriage, and my problem is resolved. But I had no idea that that's where my hellish nightmare started. No idea. I was practicing safe sex with birth control, and it failed twice. So came out pregnant the second time, and I was so angry at myself. So I decided to go to Planned Parenthood. But after that abortion, things got worse for me emotionally. I started having like suicidal thoughts of me going into the kitchen and grabbing a knife and just stabbing myself, and then these just psychotic thoughts in my mind, and everything was worse. But I never associated anything with the abortions because I didn't do anything wrong. After that, for some reason, when I see my boyfriend, I felt like I didn't love him anymore. Like I wanted to vomit around him. He was such a wonderful person, a wonderful man, good-looking man. I waited 2 weeks after the third abortion and I left him. But I wanted to forget the boyfriend. I wanted to bury those abortions. I never wanted to talk about them. So I decided to move. And I saw an ad for Planned Parenthood. The manager, she said, we'll hire you and you'll start on a Monday. In this clinic, on Mondays, during consultation, you cannot use the word baby, he, she, mother, or father. You're gonna have to refer to the baby as an it. And one thing that's very, very important is you cannot let these young girls see the ultrasound. That screen has to be faced away from the patient. But the next day, on Tuesday, it was women that had prenatal care at Planned Parenthood that wanted to have their babies. During their ultrasounds, they were allowed to see the screen. The nurses would point at the ultrasound and say, look at your baby's legs. You're gonna be a great mother. The vocabulary was completely hypocritical. On Wednesday, it was the day of the abortions. As soon as I walked into that office, the manager was like, sit down. Okay, what you're gonna do today is you're gonna assist the women during their abortions, and you're also gonna assist the doctor at the same time. And one important thing, Patricia, you will never, ever tell a soul what you see behind these doors. You can't tell your friends, you can't tell anybody. And another thing that's more important than that is that you cannot tell the mothers or the fathers that after the abortion, we throw their babies away in the garbage. The first young girl that went in, she was probably about 15 years old, and she was 3 months pregnant. When I saw this abortion, his arm was just so aggressive. The sound of the machine, she was screaming, and it looked so violent. And when I saw the force of his arm, I remember thinking to myself, how does he not know if he's damaging her womb, if he's damaging her ovaries, if he took everything out? And at that very moment, I thought to myself, this is completely a blind man's surgery. I mean, he can't see exactly what he's doing to this young girl. They go by the amount of blood and substance that they take out, and he felt like he was finished. So my job was to take the bag with all the substance in it, to wrap it, and the back office nurse that was training me took me into this little room in the back of Planned Parenthood, and she said, this room has to be closed. because patients walk by and they cannot see what we see in this little room. So what you're gonna do now is empty this bag with the substance into the Petri dish. I acted strong, my heart was beating, and I remember when I emptied that bag out, the first thing that was very hard was the smell. It was just, the odor of it was awful. I wanted to gag. She took out a pair of tweezers. She put the tweezers in and she started navigating through the Petri dish, and I thought, okay, we're gonna find the blob. We're gonna find the sack of tissue. And all of a sudden, she lifted up to the light an arm, and the hand looked exactly like this. And when I saw the hand, I could see the details of the hand. I could see the lines on the palms. I could see the nails. I could see everything. And she said, Patricia, this is part number 1. We have to find 5 parts of the body and identify every part. That way we can tell the doctor that the abortion was successful. And she put it down on a piece of cloth. I remember that. And when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. And I stayed quiet. And then she put the tweezers back in and she lifted up a leg. When I saw that leg, it was dangling because it was so well formed. And then she found the other arm, found the other leg. And I remember looking at her face because I was in shock. Inside of me, my heart was beating. She looked completely numb, robotic. There was no emotion, there was nothing. The 5th part was a head. So she picked up the head with the forceps and she put it up to the light. And when I saw that head, I could see the eyebrows, I could see the eyelashes. I saw like just very thin, delicate hair forming. I could see the nose, I could see the ears, and I saw the mouth that was wide open. And when I saw that, I thought, I killed my 3 children. This is a human being, and this human being is 3 months. And I had my first abortion when I was 4 months. And she basically puzzled this body back together, and she said, the abortion is successful. You can go tell the doctor that the patient can leave the room. All the body parts are there. The last day of my job is the first time I had ever seen my manager smile. She said, I want to introduce you to this young girl. She's 16 years old. And you're going to be assisting her after your lunch during her abortion. She's 5 months and a half pregnant. She's almost 6 months. And she's pregnant with twins. My manager was smiling because they charged you a good amount of money if you were on your 2nd trimester and if it was twins. That's why she was happy. And when she said twins, I mean, I almost had a heart attack. I ran to my car and I cried, and I never went back. I started dating a young man that was a drug addict. And the only reason I dated him was because he made me laugh. One day, we were in a hotel room. It was a bunch of drug addicts. We were all smoking methamphetamine, and my boyfriend and I fought, and he said, you know, Patricia, why don't you just leave? Walk out of this room and just leave. And I walked out, and I thought, oh, he'll come back and get me. You know, he'll come back and apologize. And I've decided to live this life for him. I decided to do drugs so I can be around him and his friends, and he'll come back for me. He loves me. I saw him get into a car with all our friends, and they left. And the hours rolled and rolled, and he never came back for me. And I remember I was very thirsty. I hadn't slept for 4 days. And at that point I thought, I don't have anything. I've hit rock bottom. I have nothing. I don't have my boyfriend. I don't have any drugs. I don't have any water. I don't have my family. My family's so ashamed of me. They haven't heard of me in years, and I have no friends. And I started to cry. At that very moment when I started to cry, for the first time in my life, I looked up at the sky and I looked up at the clouds and I felt the presence of God the Father. And I knew he was there and I knew he was looking at me. And I looked up at him and I said, I don't have anything. You're the only thing I have at this moment. And I want to thank you because you gave me a beautiful childhood. You gave me a beautiful family. I was so loved. And you gave me so many blessings, and I destroyed my life. And I'm so sorry for what I've done to myself. And I curled up in a fetal position, and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And I could tell you maybe a minute after that prayer, I felt somebody hug me from behind. And I felt a tight squeeze. And when I turned to look over to see who it was, this young, beautiful girl smiled at me and she said, Jesus loves you. And I looked at her and I said, what did you say? And she said, Jesus loves you. He said to me while I was working, I work at that restaurant at the corner, I'm a waitress, and I was taking an order, and God spoke to my heart and he said, look out the window and tell that young girl that's on drugs, that's out there on the street, that I love her. Even if her mother or father shall abandon her, I will never abandon her nor forsake her. I will be with her until the end of time. And she said, I don't know where you live, but I'm gonna take you home today. And I remember I looked at her name and her name is Bonnie. I saw her name tag. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't believe that somebody actually looked at me with worth. She took me into the restaurant and she said, Patricia, you can order whatever you'd like. And she'd smile at me. And she just gave me so much love. I didn't feel worthy of it. And she took me home and I was shaking because I was at my father's doorstep. And as I was knocking the door, and I was so scared because I was the apple of his eye. I was his everything. And I was just this complete failure. I remember when he opened the door and he sees his young princess, just no hair, like a skeleton, you know, on drugs. You know, I remember the pain in his eyes when he saw me. And I just threw myself to his feet and I asked for his pardon. And he did. He just gave me so much love. I didn't expect that. And that's where it all began. That's where my restoration began, my walk with the Lord. So I had this journey with God. I had my walk with God, and I had the love of God in me, and I started to know who he was. But I never, ever thought about my abortions. I just didn't want to think about it. It's just so shameful. And I got invited to the Rachel's Vineyard retreat for post-abortion healing. I thought, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. Somehow, miraculously, I ended up there, and I can tell you that I walked in on a Friday afternoon feeling so shameful and scared. And I did feel like an assassin. Deep, deep, deep down, I felt like, you know what? I had an abortion. I killed 3 children, and that's it. I didn't think about anything else but that. During that retreat, wow, the Lord transformed my heart, and it was such a gift to know that I am actually a mother, that I'm not a woman that just killed her 3 children and they do not exist and that's it, period. No, there's such a gift in knowing that my children are still, they're alive, because Lord is the Lord of life. He came to win victory over death, and my children are alive, and that I'm a mother, and that I will see them one day. You know, that's not the end of them. It didn't finish there. You know, there's still mercy. And I made them a promise that weekend, since I ended their life, and I didn't give them a chance to live here on earth, and to repair all the damage that I've done to other people, to myself, to them, that I would do everything in my will to defend life, and I would be the voice of those who have no voice.